Welcome to the Word for Life podcast, a daily devotional covering the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation.
In Numbers chapter 13, we read about the Israelite leaders who misled the people of Israel. You see, God told Moses to send 12 tribal leaders to spy the land of Canaan. Verse 2 reads, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders." This verse tells us how God had already promised that He will give them the land. All that these leaders had to do was just to do a mapping of the land so that they will be ready with a plan to make war if necessary. And before they left, Moses told them exactly what they needed to note down in their spy mission. In verse 18 to 20, Moses asked them to see how the land looked like, whether the people were strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land was that? Was it a good or bad land? What kind of towns they were living in? Are the towns unwalled or fortified? How is the soil, fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? And to encourage the Israelites, Moses asked them to bring some of the fruit of the land because it was the season for the first ripe grapes. And so the leaders took the journey from the very south of the land to the very north of the land, and they finally came to Hebron. Verse 22 says, they went up through the Negev and came to Hebron. Interestingly, this was the route taken by Abraham. If you read Genesis 13:3, you will read there that from the Negev, Abraham went from place to place. And it was during this journey in Genesis chapter 13, verse 15 to 17, God made this promise to Abraham. Verse 15 reads, "All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. So go, walk through the land and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you." And there we read that Abraham trusted this promise from the Lord and built an altar there. And from Negev, finally, Abraham reached Hebron. And this is the Hebron where the leaders finally came. And so the leaders walked exactly the road which Abraham took. Everything went well until in Hebron, the leaders saw the descendants of Anak. These descendants of Anak were known for their extraordinary height, and the leaders saw and feared them. Even though in verse 23 we read that they also took monster grapes from Canaan, when they actually came back to the Israelites, they reported not only the prosperity of the land, but also the presence of the descendants of Anak. Caleb tried to encourage the people, but the majority voice was pessimistic and lacked faith. The leaders also, in verse 32 to 33, spread a bad report among the Israelites. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Friends, this is what happens when God's people do not factor in God's power and His faithfulness. The difference between the patriarchs and these leaders was that the patriarchs understood what they could not do, but what God can do. The patriarchs knew that they had limited power, but God has unlimited power. That is why, even though they had not seen the promise being fulfilled during their lifetimes, yet they died in faith, holding on to the promise. Friends, it was in Hebron that Sarah died. And when Sarah died in Hebron, Abraham bought his first property to bury Sarah because he trusted that God has already given this land to his family. Later on, Abraham and all his children except Joseph were buried there. But now, the Israelites who had walked in the same place where Abraham walked only focused on their own strength. In Numbers 13:31, they told the people, "We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are." Friends, what they did not know or tell the people was that God will fight for them. God will be present with them when they finally go there. Interestingly, the next generation of Israelites who finally went to Canaan saw how the first city to fall in Canaan was Jericho. And the walls of Jericho fell down without the Israelites raising their weapons, because God simply did it. Friends, when we talk to others, let us include the God factor. Facts are good and necessary, but God's people hold on to God's promise, power, and faithfulness.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow for the next episode of the Word for Life podcast.